On my first flight of the year, I completed my third solo. If the noon weather was just as good as in the morning, I'd be able to go out for the fourth solo, which is a door-to-door flight. But I have no complaints. Solo 3 was just as exciting as solos 1 and 2, just longer, with 2 touch and goes and 1 full stop and taxi to the hangar. It was January 3 and I had planned for an 8 AM and a noon flight. Before Christmas, my last flight was my second solo, and today I was hoping for the third and maybe even fourth solos. The third solo is similar to the second one, with the difference that I'd complete 3 circuits and then taxi the plane to the hangar instead of to the runner bay to pick up my instructor. For the hour 28 flight, pre-solo check and solos, the ATIS reported this.
Camden Terminal Information Alpha, runway 06, wind variable 5 knots, visibility greater than 10 kilometres, cloud few 1500, temperature 23, QNH 1017. On first contact with Camden Ground or Tower, notify receipt of Alpha.
Now in the first solo, I completed a single circuit. I took off, flew once around the airport, landed and celebrated. I completed 2 circuits around the airport in the second solo, landed and then celebrated. And in today's third solo, I completed 3 circuits around the airport, landed, parked and then returned to the school office to wait a few hours for my next flight. What was remarkable about my third solo was that it felt normal. Unlike the first and the second solos, the third solo felt something like I've done before. Nothing special, yet it was still exciting because it was just me and the plane, my plane. In the third solo, I didn't feel the overwhelming stress that I experienced during the first 20 hours of training. Like in solo 1, I had a positive feeling that I was in control of the plane because I had practiced this hundreds of times before. You might think that practicing anything hundreds or thousands of times would render the experience boring and repetitive, but I can confidently say no. Practicing circuits over 100 times allowed me to fly a relaxed solo number 3. This amount of practice is the key to flying safely and enjoying it. Like the previous solos, this one started with a pre-solo check. Greg asked me to fly a normal, a flapless and a glide approach in the first part of the flight. This allowed me to practice and him to determine if I was safe and consistent enough to go solo. In the circuit with us was a Cessna Caravan belonging to the police doing some practice circuits, including a couple that were very low passes. After completing these procedures adequately, we landed and parked at the runner bay. Greg informed Tower that I'd be returning for solo circuits. He instructed me to complete 3 circuits with 2 touch and goes and 1 full stop and exited the plane. I then continued to the holding point Alpha, runway 06, to re-enter the circuit. Upon arriving at the holding point, I encountered a traffic jam. There were several planes ahead of me, so I had to wait patiently for each one to take off. This allowed me to review a few checklist items and put my hat on. When my turn came, I radioed that I was ready for solo circuits, got clearance for takeoff, and a few seconds later, I was in the air.
Camden Tower, Julia Bravo Charlie, holding point Alpha, runway 06, ready for solo circuits.
Julia Bravo Charlie, tower hold position.
Hold position, Julia Bravo Charlie.
Whiskey Kilo Mike, downwind for touch and go.
Information receipt of Alpha, request taxi for cross at departure. Kilo Mike, follow the CT4 on base.
Maybe there's a look.
Follow the traffic on base, Whiskey Kilo Mike.
Let's check.
Canada Ground Mike Whiskey Yankee, the Tower Dual information in receipt of Alpha, I request taxi for cross at departure.
Transponded to
Mike Whiskey Yankee, taxi holding point Alpha runway 06. Taxi holding point Alpha runway 06, Mike Whiskey Yankee. Victor Delta, clear touch and go.
Clear touch and go, Papa Victor Delta.
I'm glide speed 68 knots. Good, got it right. I had that feeling that I didn't get the glide speed right earlier, but actually, yeah, it was 68 knots is the correct speed. That mix is rich. Thumbs up.
Juliet Bravo Charlie, liner.
Line up, Juliet Bravo Charlie.
Juliet Bravo Charlie, clear for takeoff.
Clear to take off, Juliet Bravo Charlie. Okay. It's just me in the... Woohoo! Alright. Let's do this.
I executed a copy-paste of my circuits from Solo 2 and completed the 3 circuits in a few minutes. It was 16 minutes, 16 amazing minutes where everything was under control, within margins of about 100 feet and 5 knots, with lots of spacing between other aircraft in the circuit, just like I like it and CASA requires it. After my 3rd solo, I returned to the office to chill and wait for my midday flight. The plan was for the flight to be my 4th solo. This solo would be door-to-door, meaning that I'd do the entire flight without an instructor in the cockpit, including the pre-flight checks, startup and taxi. So I did the pre-flight ground checks, set up my cameras and settled in the cockpit. I got the latest 80s.
Camden Terminal Information Charlie, runway 06, wind 050 degrees 6 knots, cab OK, temperature 28, QNH 1016. On first contact with Camden Ground or Tower, notify receipt of Charlie.
Which mentioned 6 knot winds from 050 degrees. This was the same as in my earlier flight, except that the wind had settled in a direction which almost completely into the runway. Now, just as I was about to call ground to request clearances, all stations had a broadcast indicating new higher wind conditions.
All stations, wind check 360 degrees 9 knots, crosswind 9.
I requested and received clearances anyway and planned to check on 80s at the runner bay.
Camden Ground, Juliet Bravo Charlie, Cessna 172 solo at the grass strip parking. Request startup and taxi for circuits. Information Charlie.
Juliet Bravo Charlie, start approved, taxi holding point Alpha runway 06.
Start approved, holding point Alpha, runway 06, Juliet Bravo Charlie.
Greg monitored me from outside the plane and suggested that I radio ground to ask for the crosswind component conditions.
Camden Ground, Juliet Bravo Charlie, I just wanted to check the crosswind conditions at the moment, please. Thank you, Juliet Bravo Charlie. You got that? 8. Okay, so right now it's 8 knots crosswind with maximum 10.
Greg discussed this with Victor and they decided that the crosswind component was too strong for a solo, so we cancelled the flight. I used my handheld radio to cancel my previous clearances and then taxied the plane back to hangar.
Camden Ground, Juliet Bravo Charlie at the grass parking. Previously, I requested permission for startup for in taxi for circuits. I'd like to cancel that, please, due to weather. Okay.
As easy and as quickly as that, a quick weather change resulted in a quick decision to cancel the flight. No fuss at all. My next scheduled flight lesson is on Thursday next week. I'll be helping with the Scouts flying camp on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so I moved my flight to accommodate. If all goes well, and I'm looking at you, weather, I'll be doing a door-to-door solo flight, and I can hardly wait. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss any of my future flight logs. Just click on the subscribe button below this video. And of course, you can also head over to my detailed flight training log pages on the Tech Explorations website. In these pages, I document in detail all of my experiences and learnings from each one of my training flights. These logs contain a goldmine of information for any aviation student or anyone interested in aviation. Until next time, I wish you clear skies and safe landings.